Hi, my name is Nicholas Pena. The lesson I'll be discussing today is writing and solving one-step inequalities. This lesson is designed for a 7th grade math class. The two Common Core standards I will be included in my lesson are 7.EE.4b as well as MP.1. There is one ELD standard which is emerging 2.I.1. Our content objective for today is students will learn to write and solve one-step inequalities. Our language objective, students will explain how to write and solve one-step inequalities. The time slot for this lesson is one class period or 55 minutes. Some of the technology I'll be integrating today are Chromebooks, smart TVs, Pear Deck, Padlet, quizzes, and Edpuzzle. As students come into the class, one of the first things they're going to see is this slide, which is asking students to find their seat, grab their math notebook out of their cabinets, access their assigned Chromebook, and go on to our Pear Deck website using the code in the corner to access our PowerPoint. The next slide they'll see is a Padlet slide. This is where students are going to be able to access the Padlet website by clicking any of the two images, and their students are going to be able to ask any questions that arise throughout the lesson. Math is definitely not an easy subject, and students get timid or intimidated to ask questions. This will allow students to ask questions freely without being scared to do so. The next slide is an Are You Ready slide. This will be used as our warm-up. Students will be going up to our smart TV board and plotting the 4 points. This will allow me to see where they're at for our lesson for today. The next slide will talk about inequalities, which is in their symbols, meaning, and word phrases for the 4 inequalities we'll use in class. Students will be able to write this down on their math notebook. We'll go over 4 writing inequalities. The first one we'll go over as a class so students get a sense on how to do these problems. The next 3 students will be able to have a chance to write it, draw their answers on the Pear Deck, as well as being called up to our smart TV to write down their responses. We have 2 vocabulary terms that are huge for this lesson, which is addition property of inequality and subtraction property of inequality. Students will write this down in their notebook and going up to a smart TV to fill out the following table. This first example we do as a class over our smart TV, giving the students a sense of how to properly solve one-step inequalities. Students will then have the opportunity to work their next problem out on Pear Deck, drawing out their work as well as plotting the points. Students will also get an opportunity to do the same thing with the following example. Then we're going to be going back to learning onto our notebooks and writing when exactly do we switch our inequalities, which is only when we multiply and divide by a negative number. The next example, students will be able to respond on their Pear Deck, as well as I'll select a student to go up to the board to fill it out. Next, to check for understanding, I want to give the opportunity to our students to draw or write 2 examples of a one-step inequality. This could be either one where we have to flip the sign or keep the sign the same. To check for assessment, students will be able to click on our quizzes picture or go on to joinmyquiz.com, enter the code, and answer an 8-question quizzes that I have assigned for our students. Then I'll be able to check for emotional of how well they did on this lesson with either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. For those students that felt they didn't have enough proper learning or they want extended learning, there's an Edpuzzle video available for them. All they will have to do is click on the link and it will take them to the Edpuzzle of about 5 minutes that goes in depth about one-step inequalities. And that is my lesson for our 7th grade class on writing and solving one-step inequalities. Thank you.